Hey everybody, Shelly here, and today we are going to continue Foundation Fest with day number 2. And while we're on this like shtick of sticks, let's try another stick foundation. I've had this sample floating around for a little while. This is the Clinique Chubby in the Nude foundation stick. And this is not the full size. This is a deluxe sample that I had gotten with some previous order, I'm sure, from Sephora. And let's see what they have to say about this foundation. I am on Sephora's website. This foundation, it retails for $24, and you get 0.21 ounces in the full size. Note that that is 1/10 of an ounce less than you get with the Lancome foundation, but at $24 it is not super expensive. Again, if we compare this to a full-size foundation bottle, that typically has 1 fluid ounce of foundation, but comparing a stick formula to a fluid formula, and unless I was able to weigh exactly how much product is used for one application, it's really hard to compare the two formats because they are different formats. So this does come in 10 different shades, and so it's not a huge variety in the shade range department. It does look like it goes to pretty light and pretty dark and a bunch of shades in between, but that's not a real huge range for fine tuning. Although on the Sephora website they do list the tone and undertone of every shade that they've got, so that is usually helpful. Now I have the shade Intense Ivory, and that is described as a neutral pink beige shade for very fair skin tones with neutral undertones. And just to give you an idea, there's a shade that looks a little bit lighter called Abundant Alabaster, neutral pink for very fair skin tones with neutral undertones. So that is probably a less beige, more pink version. I didn't have that many things to choose from with these deluxe samples, and this was the lightest that I could choose. But this Alabaster looks like it is one shade lighter and a little less beige than the one that I've got here. Now, the description of the product features, they say it is a creamy stick foundation for full face application and touch-ups that achieves instant perfection on the go. It's a flexible foundation, portable, blah, 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 creamy, moisturizing, and oil-free. It blends easily, builds from sheer to moderate coverage with a long-wearing natural finish. So that is about all they've got to say here. Now, as usual, what I'm going to do today is show you how I applied this product on my face. We will try it with both a damp sponge and a brush to see if I have a preference. We will attempt to build it up and see how that goes in terms of coverage. Then I will wear it all day. I'll come back with a natural light check-in, and I'll come back at the end of the day with some final thoughts. So that is what we're going to do in this Foundation Fest review. I'm going to stick some swatches in here so that we can compare the color of this foundation to some of the other lighter toned foundations that I own. Here we go. Today looks more like a foundation rainbow than anything else. As you can tell, when it comes to this particular finish, I have a heck of a time finding good color matches. So here is today's Clinique Chubby in the Nude in the shade Intense Ivory, considered a very fair, cool foundation tone. This is yesterday's foundation, the Lancome Tanny Doll in shade Ivory Neutral, I think it was. Yes, Ivory Neutral, number 90. Third up, we've got my current favorite color match. This is the Philosophy Hope in a Jar in their lightest shade, number 3. Fourth is the Too Faced Born This Way in Snow. And last, I've got the It Cosmetics CC Plus Cream in Fair, which is definitely too warm toned or yellow for me. The rest of these, pretty good on the cool tonedness. The Clinique is a little bit dark. Okay, let's try out this Clinique Chubby in the Nude foundation stick. I don't want to really expose what a dirty bird I am, but this name, you guys, like, I can't even. I've got this in the shade Intense Ivory. Now, this is a deluxe sample size. This is not the full-size product. So this is one that I got for some reason. It's been sitting around, and I'm going to try it. So, as per usual, we're going to do the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge on one side. I'm going to use my Artis Oval 7 on the other side. That Wayne Goss brush wasn't so great with the stick from Lancome, so let's just try a different one and we'll go from there. I have already cleansed, super moisturized, super sunscreened. It's going to be 78 degrees outside, and even though it's going to be rainy and cloudy and potentially severe weather, you are still catching rays from the sun, girls and boys. You are still catching rays. Sunscreen that mug. So then I put on some primer. This is the Urban Decay Urban Defense SPF primer, which I am loving. It is just my new go-to. Love it. Lots of SPF going on here. We're not getting any more age spots from that sun. No. So, I guess we should just do this, right? Here's my chubby stick. I just can't. Here is the shade of the Intense Ivory. And I feel like, oh, and this is how much you get. Like, this is as far up as it goes. So this is the deluxe sample. The deluxe sample is 0.12 ounces, and so it is probably about a third of the actual full size, almost a third. I was wondering if maybe I wasn't pressing this stick hard enough on my face to get enough product off with the Lancome. I am going to try that more times and I will report back to you guys if I have any better luck with that foundation, but I think it is just too drying for my skin. But let's try this one, and I'm going to try to be a little more firm here. This just feels like the dirtiest video ever. Okay, so yeah. Oh, whiskers! Brush. Right off the bat, this smooths out much nicer than the Lancome one. It's not supposed to have as much coverage as the Lancome. This one's supposed to be sheer to medium coverage. And I'd say we've got light coverage with the amount of product I put on initially with the brush side. The color seems a bit yellowish orange to me, which is odd because this shade is described as being very fair pink beige with neutral undertones. I usually go a little bit cool, but neutral works for me usually. So I'm going to blend this out the other side with the sponge and see where we're at. It seems to be a slightly more sheer coverage with the sponge. I can see all of my sunspots still poking through and a little bit of redness. I can really see a little bit of redness still on both sides. Let's go in with another layer, see if we can build this up a little bit, and I'm going to use the brush because I like the finish on my pores a lot better with the brush. So let's go round two. This builds up beautifully. I'd say we're probably at light medium coverage right now. I can still see a little bit of my worst sunspots poking through, but nothing terrible. It looks really smooth and really nice finish. It is not like matte, but it's not dewy. It's sort of just a natural, healthy sort of finish. It's not caking up around my nose. It is not settling into any lines right now. I think the shade is a tiny bit too dark. It's a little more beige than it is ivory. And considering this is for their very fair skin tones, very fair is usually too light for me. Normally I'm in the fair range. Light is too dark. Very fair is usually too light. But this being on their very fair end of the spectrum, I'm really shocked because this seems really dark for very fair. It's not super too dark. I mean, it's going to be obvious, I think, by the end of the day. You can see my neck is a lot paler than my cheeks right now, but I think I can get away with it. It's just going to look like a slight mismatch, and, well, if anybody's going to say something to me at work, well, I will get up in their face and be like, that's what I would say. I'm totally not getting up in anyone's face. But I think it's going to work. Let me zoom you guys in, and I will show you what we got going on to start out here. Pretty nice, right? I'm liking it so far. Let me go put the rest of my makeup on. I will be right back. Our check-in time for right now, it is, get it so I can show you guys, it is 10:09 a.m. So we're just going to call this 10:10 for ease of recollection later in the day, and I will be right back with the rest of my face. I am digging this stuff so far. My only complaint, it's too dark for me. It's going to be pretty obvious by the end of the night, but otherwise, everything applied on my face just fine. I had no trouble blending anything out. Nothing is settling into any of my lines. That is pretty much not far short of a miracle. No trouble with my concealer today. No trouble with anything. I did set it very lightly with the L'Oreal Baked, Balance, and Brighten foundation powder. Yes, in porcelain. And RCMA No Color Powder set my under eye. Concealer today was Too Faced Born This Way, since that's a little too dark for Very Fair, just like this foundation is too dark for Very Fair. But you know, I didn't want to highlight too much and make it look obnoxious, so I went with the Too Faced Born This Way, which still one of the most blendable concealers I've ever used in my life. Doesn't have quite the coverage they claim and does not go light enough for my taste. But other than that, I do enjoy wearing it when I don't want a super highlighty, brightened, concealed area. And on my eyes today, this isn't going to be much of a surprise either. If I could get this open, I am wearing the e.l.f. Mad for Matte 2 palette, as well as a couple of shades out of the e.l.f. Can't open it. The Prism eyeshadow palette. I used this guy, and I used this guy on my lid, and the Mad for Matte 2 palette was the rest of my eyes. For eyeliner, no shocker, my new current favorite, the Rimmel Glam Eyes liquid liner. And on my lips today, I've got the Revlon Ultra HD in the shade HD Dawn. So, there is that. I kind of wanted to be a little sparkly or something. I don't know. My bronzer is the Loreal GlamBronze in light pale, limited edition from summer 16. And my blush is my other new favorite, the Physicians Formula Butter Blush in Natural Glow. So, the way the rest of this day is going to work, I will come back in a few hours with a natural light check-in, and then I'll come back at the end of the day with my final thoughts and how this wore after a full day. So if you want to see what's going on, hang in there. I'll be right back. Hello, here is your natural light check-in. It is, what time is it? 3:47. So we are 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 5.5 hours in. And so far the foundation looks nice. It's not wearing off anywhere significantly. It's a little shinier than it was this morning. It's definitely too dark. In natural light, you can really tell the difference between my face and my chest. But for the most part, I can get away with it. I can pull it off. I think if I were to purchase the full size of this, I would definitely get that alabaster shade, the one lighter than this one, even though this claims to be very fair. But so far so good. I think it still looks nice. Nothing's wearing off. Nothing is settling into my lines. And we'll see if it can hold up another few hours. I will check back again this evening. One last check-in. It is 10:11 p.m. So we are at the 12-hour mark with this Clinique Chubby in the Nude foundation stick, and overall I think this performed really well. On the downside, it's a very lightweight formula, which is good. It feels very weightless. However, it does remain tacky. Just a little bit. Not sticky, but just a little tacky, to the point where if you're outside and it's windy, your hair will stick to your face and you'll have to pick it off your face, kind of thing. So I don't like the feeling of my face being tacky. I also end up being more prone to getting fuzzies caught on my face. I didn't have that problem today, but also when I get like, so this is the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara, and it flakes off on me. And if my foundation is tacky, I have a hard time brushing the flakes away, and sometimes then they smear into the foundation, and that's really frustrating. So it's, of course, the solution there is probably wear a mascara that doesn't flake off. But it's nice when I don't have to worry about it, because to me, having a tacky sensation introduces problems that make my makeup more high maintenance. And I really need makeup that, yes, I will put on a full face in the morning, but I cannot be touching it up every hour. I can't be checking to make sure I don't look ridiculous with flecks of mascara all over my, like, I just can't. So in that regard, that's a big for me. But for the most part, lots of good things are going on. It generally did not settle into my lines. I have the faintest bit of settling into my crow's feet on this side, but it's so faint that I'm thinking it is probably fluke-like, or could even be concealer and not necessarily the foundation, because it did not settle into my smile lines at all. It did not settle into my forehead lines at all. It did not even settle into my chin lines. So it is not a very settling into lines foundation. So I think if you've got some texture going on, or you've got some fine lines going on, this still might be okay. I was expecting the opposite, because when you put on a foundation like this, when you first apply it, before you blend it out, I feel like it kind of sits on top of the skin, and in some cases you almost want a foundation to fill in some pores and wrinkles, and not sink into them, but to smooth them out, and I feared that this wouldn't. In terms of pores, nothing has settled into my pores. I think this foundation looks really nice on the skin. It is a little bit, I don't want to say oily, but my forehead is a little oily. If I touch my forehead, I've got some oil on my forehead, and I'm super dry skin, and I do not create a lot of oil. So the fact that whatever oil I did create seems to have stayed in my foundation or on my skin is mildly disconcerting. I think if you do have combo or oily skin, or especially the T-zone, you might have problems with this foundation. For me to be oily in any way is a real shocker. It's hard for that to happen. But in terms of the overall wear, we're at the 12-hour mark, and this is not touted as a 24-hour foundation the way the Lancome was. This, I think, looks remarkable for 12 hours. It is wearing off. I don't want to say, like, I don't feel like it got rubbed off. My nose is fading a bit. It's starting to fade on my chin. Some of the redness is coming through. It's fading around my nose. But fading in a sense that I think the product is just dissipating, like it's going away. The product is not there anymore. It's not caked up around my nostrils because I don't think the foundation is there anymore. And I did not blow my nose today. I did not rub my nostrils. So I think it is just kind of fading away, dissipating. I don't know how it's like evaporating. I have no idea how, but the product is going away. It's going away on the bridge of my nose, around my chin, around my mouth. Now, I did eat, but when I use a napkin, I try to keep it on my actual lips and not around my face to mess up my foundation. So it is fading in different spots. Like, it's not, I don't have as good of coverage under my eyes anymore. I don't have as good of coverage over here, and I know that I put extra foundation over this blood vessel. So it is wearing away or fading, whatever, however you want to phrase that. But it's doing so gracefully, so I'm not uncomfortable. I was out in public, I was out having dinner. I don't feel like I look terrible or anything like that. I feel like this is perfectly acceptable for the end of the day. It's definitely too dark for my skin tone. I can see it very, very much difference from my cheeks to my neck, and I really feel it when you compare my hairline to my forehead. But that can be fixed. There is a lighter shade that I could try, so that's not counting against it. That's just a commentary on, if you are my skin tone or lighter, this is going to be too dark for you, this Intense Ivory shade. But if I had to give this foundation a grade, I'm going to say solid B+. It is really comfortable to wear if you take away the issue with it being tacky all day. And I did set it with a powder, so the tackiness is a little surprising. The wear is really good. It's very comfortable. It does not settle into lines, which I really like, because I am uncomfortable when it does that. I'm uncomfortable with the appearance I am making to people when I have when it's obvious that I'm wearing makeup because the makeup is malfunctioning. That bothers me. I don't want to look like I'm not wearing makeup because clearly I don't go for natural colors or anything like that. However, I don't want my makeup to look like I, took Crayola markers and scribbled all over myself. I want to have as professionally looking makeup as I can without it looking like I don't know what I'm doing or that my products are failing me. I just want to look put together. I don't know if I'm making any sense. It is past my bedtime. I am under the weather and I need to go to bed. I don't think I'm making any sense anymore. But I would say solid B+ for wearability, comfort. It looks really nice. Downside, I'm getting oily, which is tough to pull off on my very dry skin. It is fading, but it's not a terrible thing. I think it's fading pretty gracefully. The tackiness really bugs me. It's not as bad as some of the foundations I have tried in the past on Foundation Fest in terms of that tacky stickiness, but it could be bad, especially if that bothers you. So that's what we're going to say. We're going to go B+. Let me zoom you guys in and give you a final look at this mug. There we go, a pretty solid outing for the Clinique Chubby and the Nude. Still feel really awkward saying that name, but there you have it. Now, comparing this to the Lancome stick, I think now I'm definitely returning the Lancome stick, and I think I'm going to purchase the Alabaster shade in this and see if it works out any better in terms of skin tone match. So I think this would be a really convenient thing to be able to chuck this in your purse and not have to mess around with a liquid foundation, especially for like travel or on the go. I think this one might have won me over. I think I might commit to a full size. I will keep you posted, of course, in a future video if I end up getting that color and have updates for you. Thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to chill with Foundation Fest Day 2. We got 3 more days coming up, 5 days of foundations every time I run a Foundation Fest. So hang in there for the next one. I appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out and geeking out over makeup with me. Have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Sleep well. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.